Welcome to RPI's CloudSuite Tech Talk series. My name is Keith Whalen, and I'm here to introduce today's presentation, Global Ledger Sandbox. Global Ledger Sandbox is a service offering we have at RPI to allow customers to validate whether their future state GL structure will be accommodated by CloudSuite's robust dimension functionality. It's an exercise we perform many times, both for implementations and for customers that want a proof of concept before they move forward with CloudSuite. Presenting today, we have two of our most experienced senior consultants, Ms. Cindi Brackins and Mr. Chris Gordon. Please be aware that if you enjoyed today's presentation, we have these tech talks every Friday at noon Eastern, and you can see what's upcoming on the schedule on the Work Out Loud events page. Also note, we welcome questions. If you have any, please type them into the QA chat box at the bottom of your screen. We will save them for the end of the session so as to not interrupt our presenters while they're speaking. And with that, I give you Ms. Cindi Brackins and Mr. Chris Gordon.
Great, thank you. This is Chris and Cindi, and we're very happy to be here with you today. We're going to spend the next 30 minutes or so talking through the GL Sandbox exercise. Goal of this session is to outline what the service offering is and how it can benefit your organization. We're going to talk through deliverables that typically come as part of this engagement, the scope, and also the project timeline. Starting off, just what this sandbox exercise is, in a nutshell, it's an engagement where we're doing a couple of things. We're helping you design a future state global ledger structure. We're building this out in one of RPI's sandboxes. We're converting some GL transaction data. And then we're giving you the keys to go explore. So jumping back to number 1, 2, 3, and 4, just a little bit more in depth on each one of those. The Infor Global Ledger is different. It provides a lot more opportunity than your current V10 or V9 GL structure. Cindy's going to go over that a little bit later on, an overview of the GL dimensions and whatnot, but it's a big change, and this exercise is to help you uncover what that change is all about with our help, and help you help show you what the new GL could look like for you. All this is going to be done on one of our own internal sandboxes, so you don't have to give us VPN access to get into your system to pull data or build something out. It's opposite, right? We're going to be giving you the credentials to get into our sandbox. We will be converting some data, some of your historical data, just so you can get a feel for, when you log into the system, it's going to kind of look like your environment. The data is going to look pretty familiar. And then, like I said, we're going to give you the keys to the system, and over a 90-day window, you'll have the ability to log in and out as many times as you want, put journal entries in the system, put an invoice in the system, post it, see all of that route and integrate into the global ledger based on the design that we built out for you, and then run some reports. I'd say that the primary objective here from your perspective is to validate whether the global ledger is going to meet your financial tracking and reporting requirements. Like I said, it's a big change, a lot more opportunity here. And maybe you've seen some webinars or PowerPoints or sales pitches on what the new Infor GL can do, but now's really the time to get in and see for yourself and take the first step. So this is an excellent opportunity to do just that, and kind of get started on that roadmap towards the full CloudSuite implementation. Who's this exercise for? Who's this engagement for? Typically, the clients we've worked with are running a loss currently, but we could obviously do this for a net new client too. Organizations with financial reporting pain points. So if you're using the strategic ledger, the multi-ledger to track things, if you have attributes embedded in all different places in your GL so that your third-party reporting tool can report off those attributes, then this is for you. If you're using a third-party reporting tool to dissect or use alternative roll-ups, then this is the type of engagement for you. Start to understand what the new system can offer through dimensions, hierarchies, reporting basis, and how you can take advantage of that. Which is an excellent segue into our next topic. Cindy's gonna talk us through a little bit of the Global Ledger overview. So Cindi, I'll pass that on to you.
Thank you, Chris. I'm going to go over a really brief Global Ledger overview for those of you who may not be familiar with CloudSuite. First thing we want to go through is just point out some of the high points about the Global Ledger structure in CloudSuite. It is super flexible. We now have an expanded code block of 14 dimensions. There are 4 N4 defined and 10 user-defined dimensions. The N4 defined dimensions are accounting entity, account, accounting unit, and project. And then you can certainly create any additional user dimensions that you wish. We have multiple chart of accounts. We identify the entire population of posting accounts, and then in the chart of accounts, we can create multiple hierarchies of those accounts. And only the enterprise structure must contain all of those accounts. So we can have many charts that are just subsets of accounts. Each dimension also has the functionality to have multiple hierarchies as well. And we also can have multiple reporting bases. This is used when you're creating reports or doing some analysis. It identifies the hierarchies of the dimensions that you want to use in the report, as well as what entities and ledgers that you want to use. We also now have things called calendars, which mean we can have multiple calendars. So now I can have a fiscal year calendar that might be different from the calendar year calendar. And it gives the ability to generate reports based off of those calendars that we've selected. And the key difference here is the posting date of the transaction is used to determine the period of the calendar to report in. And the Global Ledger structure is optimized and indexed for reporting. About dimensions. I'm going to speak about the dimensions for a second. What exactly are they? This is the textbook definition of a dimension. But what does CloudSuite Dimensions mean? In CloudSuite, a dimension means it's your GL code block. Version 10 N4 code block consisted of company, accounting unit, account, activity, and account category. In CloudSuite, here's an example of your code block with 6 dimensions, which we have company, department, account, project, class, and practice. I also have another example here that might show 9 dimensions that are used. So this is just an example of what the different code blocks may be. This slide is just presenting what the Finance Enterprise Group dimension structure looks like in CloudSuite. This example has 3 N4 defined dimensions that are being used and 2 user-defined dimensions. And then here's an example of what the code block actually looks like when you may be in a journal entry keying or whatever. We also have another example illustrating the 9 dimensions that we had prior and what the code block would look like when you had those 9 dimensions there as well. Dimensions give us some freedom from smart numbering. This is the current version 10 code block where we had company, accounting unit, account, activity, and account category. And in our accounting unit, we may have had an accounting unit that we used some smart numbering where we had 20 represented the region, facility was 875, and the department was 4,200. Now we could accomplish that same information by creating those as multiple dimensions. So we had a dimension called region, facility, and department. And this gives us a lot more flexibility in reporting, plus it makes your maintenance a little bit more streamlined so that if I added a new department, I don't have to add all of that region, facility, and department every time. I really just would have to add the department. We also get some streamlined reporting from CloudSuite. Data cubes automatically are created based off of your dimensions, and the indexing fields allow for faster data retrieval. This is an example of a standard BI report, just illustrating the different dimensions that you might have and the different selections for your parameters that you would have. We also get some freedom from the tyranny of hierarchies. Each dimension can have multiple hierarchies. There can be different levels of summary in the hierarchies. We no longer are limited to those 5, and we don't have to be consistent across levels. This is an example of a basic enterprise type hierarchy, which we've got all of our posting accounting units or departments included in the hierarchy. My next slide is going to show an alternate view of that same data. So you can see there's many different ways that we can roll up the data. You will find that you may use a new hierarchy to accomplish some of what you may be using attributes for in version 10. And my last example of a hierarchy is one that this is only a subset of the data. You can note that the two 40,000, 50,000 departments are not included in this hierarchy here. So you can have certainly have subsets of data in your hierarchies. And now Chris is going to go through and explain how this exercise actually works.
All right, thanks, Cindy, for the overview there. So how does the proof of concept work? What are the deliverables that we have? What are the phases that we have? And what's the general timeline? This all starts off with super user training in the new CloudSuite environment. Typically, this will be on-site, but can also be done remotely. And the goal here is to work with your super users, most likely in the accounting department, to get them trained up on some of the terminology within Global Ledger, some of the things that Cindy was just mentioning, and do that so that we can all make informed decisions during our design workshop, which would follow. So when we're talking dimensions, hierarchies, all this new terminology, and also knowing how the system's integrated, we're all on the same page and we're all talking the same thing. So right, that feeds right into our design workshop where we would be reviewing current state, a lot of the pain points that you're seeing within your global ledger, whether that's reporting, processing, things like that. And we'd be discovering and listening and hearing what you have to say about your current state. And then rolling that into future state design. So given the pain points, given the frustrations, and also given the opportunity within Global Ledger, how can we transition from where you're at to where you need to be? So that would all come within the design. We put together a design document which houses all of our recommendations, the reasoning behind those recommendations, and send that off to you for safekeeping. Once we would have sign off there, we'd move right into our future state Global Ledger Sandbox build. This is an RPI task where we would go in and build out the sandbox based on the design decisions that we've just made in the previous phase. We also have a reporting workshop and reporting training built into this engagement, on-site or remote. We would be training you up on Infor BI and or Burst to show you how the tools work, how to build reports, how to run reports, and listening to some of your reporting requirements and building out some of those reports for you. So typically there's a reporting budget of hours in the engagement too that would cover custom report development if needed. And then once we give you the keys, we're not going to just run away. We're here to help with application support, and we're basically on call for you. If your team's running through journal entry processing, or invoice entry or project ledger activities come across errors, reach out to us and we'll have someone help you get through whatever roadblock you've hit. All right, from a timeline perspective, we have a template to go off of. Obviously, things could change. We might have a longer training and design session and a shorter build session or whatever, but typically the first 1 to 2 weeks, we do project planning, identify who the RPI team is, who the client team is, and do a kickoff so everyone gets to meet each other. We also begin that current state discovery I was talking about before through remote sessions or on-site sessions, depending on the environment here. Once we are done with that, we would prepare the environment, so build out whatever materials we need to help train you during super user training, which would happen right around week 3. Once you're trained up, we will conduct the design workshops right around week 3 or 4, and the deliverable from that would be that design document. From there, RPI kind of takes over with most of the work. We would be building out your pristine environment, converting the data that you sent us, and then after that, we hand it off. At this point, all the data is converted, you're trained up, you know how to use the system, and the system's designed based on what we've talked through. From that point on, like I said, we're there for application support. We also will host a 30-day check-in and a 60-day check-in after we've given you the keys to the system. We want to see how things are going, get feedback. If there's any other things you need to be trained on, we can obviously do that too. But these are just check-ins to make sure you're using the system, and if there's anything we can do to help, we give you that time. The reporting workshop too, that would be right around week 9, week 10. We would deliver that on-site or remotely, and custom report development would be an output or a deliverable from that. The very end of the project is a project close. We would meet at the end of that 90-day time period to just talk through how the whole engagement went, what you like about the system, what you think went well during the engagement, and any next steps that might come. Cindi, do you want to finish us off here on the last slide?
Certainly. I'm going to speak to the scope of this engagement. It's highly customizable. That particularly depends on what your client-specific needs are. So we do have a default scope, but we definitely do modify that some depending on what the client needs are. Our default scope includes we build a finance enterprise group and the dimension structure. We also build the project ledger setup. We do limit some of our build to 2 accounting entities or companies. We also include some base payable setup and cash management setup. There's some functionality that's in cash management that you might want to play with a little bit, so we give you some of the basics there so you can do that as a part of the sandbox exercise. We also convert 1 year of GLAC transactions for up to 2 entities. So you can run reports and look at the data in the new configuration using Global Ledger Dimensions. And we also do convert a subset of your AP vendor master. In no way do we convert your whole vendor master, but we will convert a subset so that if you want to play around in that system, you can do that as well. We do some of that extra other system stuff just to give you the opportunity to explore a bit more than just the Global Ledger. That pretty much concludes our session, and I think we'll now take any questions.
All righty, so it looks like we have a few questions here. We can jump into those. The first question, any recommendations when going to Global Ledger before working with RPI that we as a company could have prepared to make the project smoother? So yeah, that's a great question. I think getting together with the accounting team to refamiliarize yourself with your current GL setup, your chart of accounts, the naming convention that's going on there, how you're using sub-accounts, the reason behind a lot of those things. Some of these setup decisions have been made years ago and they've just kind of stayed. But knowing the design decisions or the reasoning behind those design decisions will help us understand how to best recommend a new future state design. And also any pain points that you're having, whether that's reporting, whatever within the accounting department that you keep struggling with, things you can't get out of the system, it takes you a long time to do this. Those are the types of things that we'd want to hear about and discuss in your current state. Great question, thank you. Another question here is, can this type of engagement still happen remotely due to COVID? And the answer to that is it can. We do a lot of our work remotely now, as you might imagine. A lot of our clients, the states in which they're in, don't even allow vendors to come on site. So we're working through that every single day, and this type of engagement could follow that exact same methodology. Is there any training in scope on the new Infor AP system? So not really, not typically. The training is centered around the global ledger and reporting and project ledger, but you know, like Cindi just mentioned, there's the ability to customize this engagement. So if payables training is something you want, that's something we can absolutely include. Next question here, is there a limit to the number of people that can access the RPI Sandbox? Yeah, no, there's not a limit. We do hand out a username and password, and you can share that with whomever on your side, whether that's 2 or 5 people. We will be tying that username to one of your email addresses in case you need to do password resets or anything like that. The emails would be going to you guys and not us, and you would manage that. Another question here, what have been others' biggest issues when converting? So I think I can answer that question both in the framework of this engagement, but also just in general converting to CloudSuite. Converting to CloudSuite, some of the issues we face is the mappings and maybe not issues, but challenges, right? We're not just taking your V9 or V10 data and putting it into CloudSuite as is, unless it's an as-is upgrade. A lot of times the design of your CloudSuite system has changed. Partner numbers have changed, account numbers have changed, sub-accounts might not even be in use anymore. So the exercise of going through that mapping and getting everything to align with your new design is a challenge. But Cindi, I don't know if you have any other examples there.
Yeah, I guess the other thing that you really might want to consider is the amount of data that you want to convert or migrate. You know, if you bringing over 10 years of history, then you're going to have to build some of that structure in your new global ledger structure that you may or may not want. It may be, muck it up a good bit and make things not as clean with your new design in global ledger. So you just need to consider the amount of history that you want to bring over. And if you're okay with bringing over, all of that historical structure, that's okay. But if you're really wanting to get it clean, start over, maybe you should, cut back a little bit on the history that you want to bring over.
Great. Next question here. Currently, we upload our journal entry with a lost and self-contained workbook to the general ledger. How will that happen in the new system? The Microsoft add-ins goes away, and that's replaced with Spreadsheet Designer. And Cindi, there's a way to do both at once, right? To have your header and your details loaded through a single click?
Yes, fantastic. It's a little bit different than the old self-contained workbooks, but you can certainly create your header and your transaction, and you actually could release the journal entry straight from the ISV upload.
And that's a good point too, because all your query wizards or your uploads, they'll have to get redone for CloudSuite because everything is different. The tool in which you use to build those is different. The tables have changed to business classes, and they've been adjusted. There's different things, different fields. So all that would need to be redone.
And just to add to that, we do typically include a little bit of a training session on Infor Spreadsheet Designer tool when we do these little engagements.
And yes, this is recorded. Logan, we record each one of these, and they'll be published. I don't know the exact time frame, but they'll be sent out. I think we can get them on YouTube too. But check back with the RPI website, and I think we'll have when that gets published there, or at least check back with us, and we'll tell you where it is. Okay. I think we're all good here. I appreciate everyone joining, so does Cindi. And with that, we'll close out. Thank you.
Thank you.